Thoughts on Celestalon leaving the team? Well, do you want my actual thoughts? See, give you a little clue about what my actual thoughts are. Like many people's mothers, my always said to me, if you can't think of anything nice to say to someone, don't say it at all. And it is not fair, like picking on individual people, because, as they keep saying, it's a team affair. Sometimes you get a few developers who are more public, and that's great. Actually, that's really good. And sometimes they can then be in the firing line. When things go well, when a good thing happens, we often give them our praise, when maybe the praise should go to many others. And equally, when things are not good, they tend to be in the firing line for our complaints. Celestalon, all I will do is put it like this. First of all, obviously, as some people may know, from the alpha, is he launched into a really weird post. I was trying to talk about something to do with Rets, of course, on the alpha, and his responses are pretty extraordinary. But I would say this, like, I followed him on Twitter. I suppose I'll unfollow him now. The reason I follow him on Twitter is not because he's a fascinating person. I'm not saying he's boring. But, you know, simply because as a really key figure in class design, like the senior developer of class design, you know, I used to follow him. And what was really curious, I would say this is probably true for the last couple of years, he doesn't tweet about World of Warcraft. Now, you know, a developer having a Twitter account is not necessarily an official work Twitter account. They don't have to tweet about World of Warcraft. But when you bear in mind his Twitter handle is Celestalon, which is the name he gives himself for gaming purposes, I always thought it was very strange as a senior developer. Like when BlizzCon's coming out, for example, usually even the ones who don't really tweet much start tweeting a little bit about it just to hype it up. Not a thing from him. All he tweets about is, as I say, turning people's hair blue. Destiny 2, he's been tweeting a bit about Destiny 2 recently. Other games he's playing, he never tweets about World of Warcraft. So I won't miss him. I'm not saying that whoever replaces him will be better, and I'm not saying I lay the blame for all of my perceived problems with class balance that I have at his door either. But he seemed to me, out of all the developers I've ever seen be public, because some of them sort of, you know, shy away a bit, and fair enough. But out of all the developers that I have seen, you know, do be public and tweet and engage, he is the most disinterested person in World of Warcraft I've ever seen working on World of Warcraft. Like Johnny Cash at Quest, the line of who made Argus and one of the new BFA zones, tweeted him criticism of Argus, and he was very honest. The thing is, right, there's a lot of developers work on it. I mean, you may not have seen that there is a photo where they took a photo quite recently of all the designers, all the people that work on it, and there's a lot of them all crowding around the statue outside Blizz HQ. And you know, some of them, it's like in any workplace, some of them will be so confident in their own ability that they will absolutely take criticism. They understand that that's a good thing. They don't have to agree with you, but, you know, they can accept it. And sometimes they'll think to themselves, yeah, actually, you're right. Some of them get very insecure and they get very sniffy about it. They don't like it at all. They just don't like being told that something they've done isn't very good. And so, yeah, and I think sometimes there's a disproportionate number of the ones who are more famous, because the ones who are more famous are not necessarily the most senior. They can sometimes just be the ones who engage the most with the public. And I sort of think sometimes maybe are the ones who engage the most, like put tweets out all the time and stuff like that, are they the most insecure ones? Are they putting those tweets out all the time because they want people to say nice things to them, because they need that, you know? And so do we get sometimes a distorted view of developers because the ones who are secure with themselves maybe just naturally don't do a lot of social media stuff, and we don't really get to hear from them very often. And it's maybe the insecure ones we get to hear off most often. But of course, whenever you say anything that's critical, the tears come on. Excuse me, or some other outrageous outburst. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I can't say anything about any developer because I don't know them personally. I've never met them. I can only look at how they actually behave. So Slayer Event, sorry, which ISP am I with? I'm with Sky, and I'm not on fibre. No, where I am, there is no fibre option. It's so crap in the UK. It's appalling. We are, when it comes to the internet, a proper and the third world country. The thing is, the government's always going about, oh yes, we should really invest in broadband, we should invest in the internet and blah, blah, blah. It's really good for business. And they do nothing. They do nothing. When I'm not actually in Yorkshire, I'm just outside it. I'm in Scunthorpe at the moment. I grew up in Yorkshire. When I was in Grimsby, which is to the east, I had fibre there, and that was sort of okay. It was actually really good with the company. There was a company called NTL. When I first got broadband, which was only round about the time WoW was coming out, actually, that was really good. It was excellent. It was so good. And then Virgin took it over. Then it was not so good. In fact, I'll tell you how bad it was, Virgin. After about a year or two, I was having proper problems with it, and it was constantly cutting me out. So this was obviously... Cleethorpes and you call Grimsby scummy. All right, then. There was... what was it now? Yeah, that was it. I kept cutting out, so that was no good for online gaming. And I kept ringing them up. The problem was it was only intermittent, so it would go off, which obviously knackers you. It makes you unreliable to the raid, so you're no good for the raid. And then you get onto the phone. By the time you've got through to someone, it's working again. And you're trying to explain to them, yeah, but it's no good. It has to work all the time. It's no good coming back on without any help. Something's wrong with this. So in the end, I got so sick of it because they won't help you if it's working when you've actually got through to someone. So what I did is I disconnected it from the back. I just yanked the plug out from the back, right, the cable, and I rang them up and said, oh, my internet's off. And they did the check. Oh, let's have a check. Oh, yeah, you haven't got a signal. And I went, no, I haven't got a signal. I don't know what's going on. And they said, oh, we'll send an engineer around. So they sent an engineer around, and he said, you got the wrong modem. This is no good. You need a different one. So they put a new one in, and it worked fine after that. I'm thinking, well, what the hell? So... but they still weren't brilliant on the customer service. In fact, the last time I had to ring Virgin customer service, I was trying to speak to this woman, and I was trying to say to her, look, it's no good. Again, this intermittent problem keeps going off. And she was saying, can you get a web page? I said, yeah, a web page will eventually load up. And she said, well, you're on the internet then if web pages will work. And I'm trying to explain to them, no, with a web page, it will struggle on for a little while. So if your internet goes off for a few seconds, the web page will just wait patiently, and then it'll come on when your signal comes back on. When you're playing a game, that don't work. You're out, you're gone, you're disconnected. But she went, no, you're on the internet if you can get a thing. Like, bloody hell. So I thought, yeah. But anyway, that's just my ISP woes. They will continue because the UK is an absolute farce, really, when it comes. We're stuck in the Middle Ages. Anyone else getting malware warning on Icy Vein? It's usually Wowhead that are known for not always having the most secure site, aren't they? Any site that has ads on it, though, are always potentially a bit... Because, obviously a lot of them won't really be vetted in any serious way. So there's always potential dodginess with any site like that obviously relies on ad income. I think they're generally okay. You just have to be a little bit, make sure your security's up to date. What are my thoughts on some people saying Argus might be mathematically impossible? Yeah, I saw the video from Scott. It was quite funny. Well, let's look at it. Let's look at it like this, shall we? So this time last week, we were just talking about the North American guilds, and I say North American, not all from North America, but the North American server guilds. some from obviously Oceanic, and they're doing their stuff. And then the following day, Method and Exorcist suddenly get to 10 out of 11. It's like, wow. Limits gets to 9 out of 11 after the first day. Method and Exorcist get to 10 out of 11 ahead of Limit. That sort of shows you the difference there a little bit. And then a Limit, of course, a step above anyone else. And then they've been on it ever since. But here's the crucial thing. Obviously, I'm sure people will... I'm sure it was a reaction by Blizzard, yeah. But... people will have seen that Chinese guild streaming Mythic Argus, and they got to the sub 40% bit within about a day, didn't they? Something like that. So here's the thing. Method and Exorcist and Limit come to that, who got their way ahead of them. They would have got to that stage also very quickly. So that means they've been stuck on the last bit for a week, nearly. For nearly a week. They haven't just been stuck on one fight for a week, which is ridiculous. You clear the first 10 in a day, and then the next one takes you... They haven't even done it after the next week. That's just wrong. And absolutely, it must mean that Blizzard panic and they press the red button that says, do not press unless shit's hitting the fan. Because I think they threw the fan at the button. Because what they've seen is they've seen the bosses getting toppled over like Skittles, and they've gone, shit, we can't have this thing cleared in a couple of days. And they cranked the buff knob up on Argus. And I absolutely think that they've made it impossible. But the problem now that they have, there's about 20 guilds who are on Mythic Argus. This is now really awkward to tune. They can't just leave it as it is. They've got to do some nerfing, or they've done one little one apparently, but they've got to do something. But they've got to be really careful now, because loads of guilds have had a lot of time on it. The last thing you want to see happening now, I mean, some people might quite like this, but it's a bit like Wheel of Fortune. If they then nerf it significantly to the point where not just Method and Exorcist could then kill it quite quickly, but 5 other guilds, because they've all had the practice on it now, they've all got about ready, and they just top. You might end up, and everyone knows, you could see the speed at which the other bosses went down. Everyone knows that Method and Exorcist are the ones fighting out for the world first. Okay, Limit, pretty impressive, but you also know, like they say themselves, they're not quite up to that level. There is a bit of a gulf there, and then there's a similar gap down to the other ones, and so on down. You could easily get someone who, if it was tuned properly, would have finished like World 10. They could easily get World First if they cock up this now. Blizzard must be at panic stations. They've put themselves in a really, really difficult position now. All because, what would have been better? Is it better to just buff it to be too difficult? Or is it better to just say, well, we've cocked it up again, Method and Exorcist, defeat it within 2 days, well, whatever. So they've made this is worse, I think, than Mythic Kill Jaden. I think this is worse. Really is. Because with Mythic Kill Jaden, when they put the nerfs in place to allow Method and Exorcist to make it possible, then that's all there is. It was still between those two guys, those two guilds. But now, it's such a mess. What do I make of the Limit Healer DDoS and his raid members? It's appalling, really. I can't help but smile, because it's also very funny. But it's not funny to the people in Limit. Imagine that. What a shitty thing to do. How appalling is that? I mean, the only thing that makes me find it more amusing than I might for another guild is I think that Limits are very likely to finish World 3rd, so I don't think it's going to affect their overall position. It was sorted out fairly quickly, as far as I could tell, but that was an appalling way to treat your guild, and I hope that no other guild takes them on if they sort of know who they are. I hope they actually become infamous for that. The healers claiming they didn't do it. You've got to, really, haven't you? You can't admit you've done it, because otherwise you almost certainly wouldn't get into another guild. But again, I don't know people personally. I don't know the people from Limit. It would seem to be an outrageous thing to falsely accuse someone of doing that. I've never seen any behaviour from, you know, the core people in Limit, the ones who don't get banned, for example, saying things like that about someone. I think this is just trying to brazen it out, because for the rest of us, we can't possibly have proof. Someone may have proof. We can't possibly have proof that it was done. But yeah, so I think this is a case of the healer just brazening it out, lying the teeth off. On Twitter, all the Limit people were like, don't let him raid again. Well, no, you shouldn't for something like that. You know, no guild should want to accept that person, which is probably why they're doing that, just to cast some doubt on it. But yeah, yet again, the when I have to do my Mythic Roundup, God knows when that will be, tomorrow possibly, we're going to have to get out the old clown icon again, aren't we? In fact, where can I find it quickly? But the other guilds could only win if they had a crazy strategy that method exhausters haven't thought of. I don't know. You would hope so. You would hope so. But what if it's a simple case of they over-nerf it and they, oh, there it is. That's the one we use. I've had to use that throughout Legion. Where should we stick him? Stick him down there next to me. I don't have clown music prepared. But yeah, it is Limit every tier, isn't it? Something seems to go wrong. And one time I didn't even think it was their fault. I actually, like, I did 2 videos. I did the first video. Unfortunately, the first video is the one that got loads of views, where, you know, I was just rolling my eyes. And then when I found out a bit more about it, I thought, I was actually on Limit's side, on the Helya thing. I did another video where I talked about that. No one was interested in that. Hardly got any views. But yeah, no, I thought they were hard done by on Helya, I have to say. But yeah, so I mean, it's not like half the guild being banned or anything like that this time, at least. Can you bet on World First Race? Well, if you can find a bookmaker that will take a bet on it. You know, it's got nothing to do with the game. It's betting on a sporting event, isn't it? If you go down to Ladbrokes or whoever you at your local gambling, your local bookmakers, if they know anything about it, they may well give you odds, all that. You thought what was Exorcist? Mahal. I've had a number of Limit players contact me and say they quite like my videos. They seem quite nice from the few interactions that I've had with them. So yeah, I mean, I feel sorry for them. Apart from anything else, it's always nice to have more people. My video on Helya. No, it was. I'd have to go back. I'm sure, because I'm sure it was Limit that did. The thing what I'm thinking of with Limit was with the strategy whereby they got their tanks killed on the breath, so it didn't do the breath. Now, there was a bug in the game that meant if you did that in the 3rd phase, you would never breathe again. So, okay, taking advantage of that, you could argue as an exploit. However, they argued that they could afford to do it on every single breath. They had the battle resist to do it, and they could prove that with logs. So, yeah, exactly. It was Limit. I thought it was Limit. That's what I'm talking about, by the way. I didn't think they should have been banned because I thought their strategy was sensible, because their strategy wasn't taking advantage of the bug. If they didn't have the battle reses, then they would be, but they did. So the strategy they were using was an identical strategy to sacrificing the tanks on Mythic Argos, for example, in Phase 3. So, you know, the fact that the bug was happening made no difference. If the bug wasn't, basically, the way I'd have looked at it, if the bug wasn't there, would they still have been able to do that? The answer was yes. So, oh, Limit couldn't afford the battles. Are you sure? Because I thought they could. I'd have to. Well, I don't know. It doesn't actually matter, I suppose. I'm fairly certain that Limit could. I don't know. I'm not sure. It doesn't really matter now, does it? I mean, they're not. No one's accusing them of doing anything wrong this tier, at any rate. Limit of model of good behaviour, apart from one healer who couldn't be asked to just either get good enough to get in on their own merits, or just suck it up, or go to another guild and get in that way. I mean, what the hell? A lot of football is built on betting on matches, so it makes esports to grow with betting. Well, yeah, there was a story actually coming when it comes to gambling, because of course the issue that I think a lot of gamers, not so much World of Warcraft at the moment because we don't have loot boxes yet, but with loot crates there is a very strong suggestion, but this is basically gambling, and that it should at the very least have warning on games with anything to do with loot crates in it, which I agree with, but the thing is, like, the authorities are getting very slow to catch up. I was reading an article today or yesterday by a group, and it was talking about CSGO skin trading, like, gambling with skins, and they were arguing that there's kids as young as like 11, 12 on these sites gambling stuff, because the fact is you can turn it into real money later on. So they were arguing because of that it's real gambling. I don't think the real money has anything to do with it. The fact is it is gambling. Like loot crates is a form of gambling, and it's the sort of behaviours it can instill in you, especially as a kid, that when you get to adulthood can get you into real trouble. So I think they should take this more seriously, and especially the pay to win loot crates. I think they should at the very least have warnings on games that have it that may encourage gambling behaviour or contains gambling. Let's see how much EA would like their microtransactions then. Do I support any football teams? Yes, Newcastle, and I come from Doncaster, so Doncaster as well. Doncaster are doing rather better in their particular division than Newcastle, who are not doing well. At the start of the expansion, people were opening emissary like they were CSGO crates. Yeah, but that wasn't gambling. You weren't paying any money for them, and you were hoping for it, but you got them every day just by playing the game. That's a different thing. That's not gambling. You weren't sacrificing something. You weren't giving something up for them. You don't like CSGO skin gambling? I don't think most people do. I don't think anyone has really got anything positive to say about it. It does cause bad habits. In fact, there was there's a couple of case studies in here. There was about someone who'd ended up, then they were about 17, 18, about 1,500 quid's worth of debt, and they said, it was. It just got like that because they just kept thinking, well, if they had a tenner instead of spending it on food, they would be going, well maybe with a 10 quid I could turn it into a few hundred quid and something like that, which of course mostly you don't, because when you gamble, very few people gamble and come out a winner. Yeah, I mean cards absolutely could be a form as well. But there's just, I think, again, it's because it's on the fringe. Trading card games, computer games, they're sort of on the fringe because a lot of politicians don't play them, they don't understand them. It's very difficult for someone to sort of say to them, look, there's this thing here, maybe you should look at it, because they don't understand it. That's the reason I've got shit internet. Because the only thing the average politician uses internet for is porn. So as long as it downloads their porn, they think it's magic. There were odds on guilds to kill Mythic Argus on Bets365. I wonder what the odds were. I don't think you would have got very much odds on method. Relinquish gambling for Arcana Crystal. But again, you're not giving anything up, though. Gambling, you have to give something up with gambling. You have to have the potential to lose something. You don't with that. You just, the Veiled Argonite that you hand over for the relinquish stuff, you've got no other use for it, so it's not gambling. You're just acquiring this thing. You can only use it for one thing. You use it for that. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. That's a totally different thing. Yeah, but you're not. Yeah, but that's you can't. That's not gambling though. Gambling specifically, you have to lose something of real value. You're not sacrificing time. You're just spending your time. The reason you're getting the Veiled Argonite anyway, largely, is you're getting the AP really. Well, losing your sanity to it is a different thing altogether. But don't think the gambling websites care either, considering you could put money on Serenity for this tier. Well, you see, with gambling sites, of course, they have to sign up to a code of practice. There's legislation that governs gambling sites. The problem with loot crates, especially pay-to-win loot crates, the problem with the skin trading, the gambling, CSGO skin gambling, they're unlicensed, they're unregistered, because they're not seen as gambling. Whereas gambling sites, bookmakers, they have to remind people about it. They have to talk about betting safely. They have to monitor people's gambling behaviour. And if there are any warning signs, they have to sort of basically say, no, you shouldn't be gambling anymore. That sort of thing. So there are some barriers in place to try and prevent people getting out of hand with licensed bookmakers. Yes, they do, Clifardo. That's it. That's the whole thing. Bookmakers are compelled by the law to try to do what they can to ensure that people are gambling safely. What has just happened to my screen there? Real problem with the Arcana Crystal is if you can't get it with some classes, you can't compete on DPS. It is certainly very powerful. It's very good for me. I mean, I'm equipping it. There are ones I could get that I could replace it with, so it's not the be-all and end-all, unless I got... Like that hunter, someone linked an armory of a Russian hunter a couple of weeks... Well, it can't be more than a couple of weeks ago, can it? It was in the first week before Mythic came out, showing them with a 930 Arcana Crystal and obviously the 1000 Amanthal's Vision. It's like, oh... What about people buying WoW tokens and spending them on black market auction crates? Must be some people. Yeah, that's a little bit... The thing is, with WoW tokens, there's a limit to how many you can get, though. Also, a WoW token, like in my... Actually, how much does it cost now? Is it still £17? Or is it... I can't remember. Let's say it's £17 for a WoW token. It may have gone up to 19. Quite a lot of things are 19 now. But it's whatever it is. Whereas when you look at 17, thank you, Clifardo, I thought it was. When you look at like the games where they have currency, online store currency, which I think is a good thing. The problem with them, though, is when you buy that online currency, so you go to the actual store, the web store, and you can buy a chunk that gives you... that costs maybe like £10. You can buy a chunk that's like £20. On some of these, you can buy a chunk that costs you like £150. In one go, you can buy £150 worth of online currency, virtual currency. That is a bit wrong. Because even though someone, let's say you could buy it in £20 slots, someone, sure, they could buy 7 lots of £20 slots, but they have to physically action it over and over again, and into their brain, they're realising they're spending money. Whereas it's just one action to buy the 150 quid worth of stuff. I think that's what's a problem with online purchases as well. Like in traditional purchases, you've got money. So, okay, in America, it's maybe not quite the same thing because all your money looks the same. But like in this country, I haven't got my wallet on me, all our notes look different. They're different colours, different sizes. The larger denominations, larger notes, different colours. So your brain has got all these triggers when you're handing over a load of notes. You know you're handing over a lot of money. And it's like, do I really want to do this? Whereas when you're ordering something online, it's the same number of buttons. It's the same buttons, in fact, you press to make a £5 purchase. Is it a £200 purchase? So those, I think, I don't know, I'm not a psychologist, but I think there's triggers in the brain. They're the same thing. You're just clicking on the same button. Do you want to buy this thing? Yes, I do. Done. I don't have to type the amount in or anything. I don't have to do anything. I'm just that click that. Yes, thank you. Good. And out it goes out your bank account. Oh, your notes look a bit different, do they now? Yeah, ours have gone very different. They've started using the plastic notes now. So the new £10 note, which came out very recently, has even got a see-through bit on it. Really weird. But you know, the point is they do all look different. Whereas, obviously, it's a long time since I've been in the United States. But when I was there, you had to be very careful with your money. You had to read it to see what denomination it was. Because it wasn't obvious just by holding it. It wasn't to me anyway. Because it just all looked green and the same size. So you had to look. And obviously, I don't know which president goes with which note. So you just had to read the number and be really careful when you were handing stuff over. But yeah, my mobile purchases, it's just you press the same buttons no matter what the size of the purchase is. If you're getting something on Amazon or whatever, it's the same button. I want that, I want that, I want that, I want that. Click, buy it, send it to me. Oh, it's sent to me. Great, thank you. You bought a welcome bundle for Hearthstone for £4. That doesn't sound like it's going to break the bank. That sounds okay to me. Oh, I've got that throat sweet out. Oh, I tried to get a character transfer and you were too poor. Oh, well, bad luck. But, yeah. And I don't know. I mean, most people as well don't really check their bank balance that often. I don't change it. I don't check it very often, I have to say. You can use your same bank card now and it'll translate currency for you and everything. Get around money changes, scams too. Okay. Who needs cash? Well, has the stream died? The streamer's alive, yeah. It always panics me when someone says that. Sorry, because occasionally it's my fault. Or not my fault, but you know, it's from my end. And then sometimes it's not. But my screen did go blank just a few minutes ago. I refreshed it. It seemed to be okay again. Well, the thing is, yeah, cash. Obviously, while moving to a cashless society, we are going to be doing that. And I'm not suggesting we shouldn't. But what I'm saying is that you don't get those triggers in your brain for how much you're really spending, as opposed to when you had to use physical money, because it's all different. And there is a different, you feel different. There's a real feeling, different feeling between handing over one note of a low denomination and a whole wad of notes of high denomination, because that's like... Like the plastic hands, they slip out your hands when you have multiple because they slide against each other. Yeah, I suppose they are a little bit less friction on them. But I don't know, I've not really used them that much because, again, we use electronic trading for most things now. Scary thing about cashless society, negative interest rates. We haven't had those yet. We've had pretty close to it. I'm not a saver though, so, you know, low interest rates don't really bother me. I haven't got any wad of cash anywhere. But McMatrix, well, this is the thing. It does make you value it more. But, you know, the march of technology. I mean, there was a time when banknotes themselves were considered... I mean, coins. There was a time when coins were considered like, you know, a step too far. People didn't trust coins. And then when people got used to coins, then banknotes came out. People didn't trust notes. Because, you know, they could get burnt. Or they could get torn or lost or blown away in the wind. They also didn't like the fact it didn't weigh very much. You could sort of feel a purse full of coins had a certain weight to it. Oh yeah, that's worth a lot. that notes. It's like those bits of paper. What are you on about? So, you know, we're just Luddites really, but yeah, we're not really designed for modern living. Not much is happening in Azeroth. There might be plenty of things happening in Azeroth at the moment. It's just that not a lot of them involve killing bosses. I mean, hang on, I'm going to check how many guilds. It was 19 guilds last I checked that were now on Mythic Argus. What a mess. I think it's still 19. Oh, is it 18? I've got 18 on WoW Progress. I'm sure someone said 19 though. It's got the Asian ones there, so it's counting those. What a mess. I don't know. Maybe it is 18. Maybe someone miscounted. Because, and then, the only... I'm also waiting for I mean, there's some hot fixes they've seen. I did see the alpha hit and rage at 40%, yeah. Well, that was what was worrying me. That's what I was talking about to begin with. Because... if alpha hit 40% within about a day of doing it, that means that method, exorcist, limit have all been on that last phase, what we assume is the last phase. I was actually having a joke, maybe it's not the last phase. Maybe maybe they just think it's the last phase, and then at like 1%, I was joking, maybe the boss goes invulnerable and there's an extra secret phase where Cho'Gall jumps out. You got to kill him. Just to screw with them, just to break them. When they think they're going to kill it, they're going to get world first. They get it down. It's 2%. We're getting there. There's people dead. 1.7%, 1.5%. 1%, boss goes invulnerable. Cho'Gall pops out. Ah, you weren't expecting me, were you? That will break many people. But I don't think that will happen. It would just be hilarious if it did. Just to see how people would react to an extra secret phase when they weren't expecting, that triggers at like 1%. But in the meantime, what we have to assume is that this phase with the like red Argus is the secret phase and is the last phase, in which case method and exorcist have been on that and limit for God, how many days now? 6 days now? About 6 days? That hidden mythic only phase where Kungan kills Argus. No, Kungan's gone. Gone. Also, we know that our faction's war chief can't die because they're in this cinematic for BFA. And we know that Sargeras can't die because that would make no sense with the cinematic. Curious that Enrage was a true berserk timer. Or if they pushed before another phase, I have no idea. What's my opinion on when Blizzard messed up strategy on Agrimar? I still don't know the details of that. Do you mean with Exorcist? Exorcist doing something with Demon Hunters. I really don't know the details of that. There was an issue where they were doing something that involved using a load of Demon Hunters, which I guess meant a load of darkness, because that's the only thing they bring that's going to have that can only work with Demon Hunters. So I mean, the only thing it could be, because what Agrimar has on Mythic, I suppose one of the key things is the combo thing, because like on normal and heroic, you got tank takes the first one, and then it's turned to the raid takes the second, and then it's back to a tank solo's third one, and then raid takes the fourth one, and then the fifth one is that disorientating circle. So the raid basically takes 2 of them. Well, the problem is with the mythic ability, when you take one, you take something like, I can't remember what it is now, 500% more damage from another one or something. So in other words, the same people, you can't have the same group take the second and fourth one. So you've got to split up into teams. But you've got to have a minimum number of people in it as well. So, you know, maybe what... But also it might be one of those, because I don't know, it might be one of those where you still want as many to take it as possible. So if you can have the whole raid take it, then that's still beneficial. So maybe the idea is everyone takes that second one. Then when it comes to the fourth one, everyone still takes it, but you dump down a load of darkness. Does that work? Will that work with the timings? Maybe that's what they're doing. I'm only guessing. I don't know. And then in the end, what seems to be the case is that rogues seem to have soloed it with like Cloak of Shadows or something. I don't know. Rogues again. Yeah, I saw... Hang on. Varimathus health buffed by 10%? I thought it was nerfed. Hold on. Where did I write it down? No, his health's been nerfed by 10% in Mythic difficulty. So he's actually been nerfed. But also, it says, Necrotic Embrace will no longer miss players who are under the effects of Aspect of the Turtle or Cloak of Shadows. Rip Hunters and Rogues cheesing that. Netherwalk and the ability to negate the knockback on Flame Rend. I don't think that would be it, because other classes would have similar abilities, wouldn't they, to Netherwalk? Which could be done. Couldn't you just use those instead? So I'm not sure that that's why. The only thing I can think of that you would specifically want to bring a load, when you can bring anything, when you can bring any number of any class you like, when you're in that position, the only reason I can think of for cheating a mechanic for Demon Hunters would be darkness. I may be wrong. I mean, I don't know. But, you know. What do I think about Heroic Garothy having the most pathetic heroic mechanic of the beam on a raid boss ever? Well, it's the first boss. It's not supposed to be hard, is it? It's not supposed to... You know, you imagine heroic isn't just for guilds doing it now. I mean, Blizzard know that you have pugs doing these things. You don't really want to do, you know, get a pug in there and they're wiping constantly on the first boss. You know you're going to have some spanners in these pugs, so just let them have a boss or two, and then I mean, it soon ramps up with the second boss. I think, you know, actual mechanics on the second boss. Why are they nerfing an already easy boss? What easy boss? Velistra. Yeah, Dan, I actually don't know what the thing is. I mean, I'm only guessing as well myself. I can't hear my PC fan, so I doubt you can. That's... I can barely hear it. I said that when I had my headphones on. It's actually quite quiet. It's a liquid cooling system, so the fans don't usually get very noisy. Varimathras. Oh no, it's only Mythic Varimathras that's been nerfed, not any other form of it. I don't think it's that easy on Mythic. It stopped a few people for a while. Yes, Murthas, I agree. So you assume they nerfed the HP because of the Rogue Hunter nerf. Adds quite a bit of movement. I agree with that. I think that's why they've nerfed the health of it. I don't think it's just because they thought it's got too much health. I think it's because they recognise that people were using hunters and rogues to cheese the doofer necrotic thingy, and now they can't. So they're going to have to deal with it properly. Which, of course, means losing DPS on the boss for the overall raid DPS. So that's what, you know... I think that's why they've nerfed itself. So that the people who killed it this week, we'll still be able to kill it without too much adjustment next week, because that does sometimes happen. The only time I ever remember killing a boss in the first week that was then changed significantly for the next week was you have to go back to Mop, and it was the 4th boss in Siege of Orgrimmar. No, 3rd boss. Forgotten what it was called now. It was before the Shah, but it was a sort of Shah thing. Completely forgotten the name of it. And they changed it completely, because you could, in the first week, you were just able to ignore all the mechanics and just burst it down. Second week, you sort of had to do the mechanics. Though, ironically, when you had to do the mechanics properly, I actually found the fight easier. Kingaroth, 12 billion health. Well, it's got ads as well on Kingaroth. Nice ad fight. The power boost from the Ret 2 piece was quite high. Yeah, it is actually. It sort of depends on your stats. I haven't done Mythic Kingaroth yet, but there are, yeah, there's sort of ads on that are really. Various people have been sort of linking their logs of their damage on those ads. E-peening. Someone linked one which showed a hunter, BM hunter, where the pet, the mindless pet, did more damage than anyone. Like anyone, including the hunter. It was a bigger bar than the actual hunter, proper hunter's bar, which also might make sense as BM. But it was also more than any other player there. It's ridiculous. So you want to wind up your, you wind up your DPS cooldowns. So for Ret Pilots, I suppose what you want to do is have your Crusade firing, so it's on 15 stacks. When the ads appear, then you can just blow them up. If you wanted to properly meme it, you could even use, I suppose, the legendary chest, but I'm not saying that's advisable. 50% mastery, yeah, I have about 50%. It's there's some people who've got a ridiculous amount there. So at the moment, my gear's all right, actually. I'm not complaining about it. Even though I got, in the last 2 days, 2 upgraded relics. It's quite ironic because I was concerning myself with the fact, I was thinking to myself, because my relics, compared to a lot of people I talked to, my relics were in pretty bad shape after Tomb of Sargeras. I really didn't get any Titanforge relics, well, not really much. I mean, a bit of a lie. I got 2 940. I got a 940, a 945, and a 930. So I've upgraded all of them now, I think. But 2 of them in the last 2 days. So a 930 turned into a 950, and a 945 turned into a 960. So, because my great fear is, as a spec, which Ret is, that depends on item level of weapon, that's really super important. I had a fear that my relics might fall behind, because the traits are also important. It's not just item level over everything. Traits are actually really important too. So, but yeah, the 2 that I've got in the last couple of weeks, although they've been upgrades just because of the item level, the traits have been downgrades. The traits have been bad. The one I got yesterday, I got a 950 fire relic yesterday. I think while I was streaming. The shocking traits. Absolutely dreadful. You could hardly pick worse ones. But small upgrade, and I'll take the item level over it. Your Affliction Warlock has 130% mastery. Yeah, my Assassination Warlock has a similar amount. But my Paladin, no. No, I'm still working on that. Because you've got to bear in mind that for a while, the whatchamacallit, I forgot what I was trying to say now. Yeah, mastery was not something I'd want to get a lot of. Let's just get, it's bugging me that the text is below, is over Amanthal's eye. Let's just pretend we're crying, the chat comment. So hold on, sorry, I'm missing a comment here. I'm here. Oh, there we go. Is it a good idea to stack it? You never really stack a stat anymore. You always sim gear, just sim gear and see what is looking the best. rather than just having the attitude of stacking it. However, if you end up with a load of mastery, it's quite a good thing. Should we put it that way? But you don't just automatically stack it in the way that you might have done in the past. Even in the past, you could argue it was still probably not something you're supposed to do. You should always sim things. But we now have the tools to sim gear upgrades quite easily now. Raid bots is a really good way to do that quite easily. Just make sure you've got the simulation craft add-on. Don't try and import it from the armory because that doesn't work. It'll look like it works, but it doesn't. 80% mastery is feral. It's your second worst stat. How have you managed to get that? Oh yeah, but isn't the item level just more important for feral anyway, over stats? I think with feral, isn't it the case that item level is just king, come what may, because the primary stat is way ahead of anything else. I think I'm right in saying that. I could be wrong. Because it's not like crit is really bad for rets now. People just, you know, think with greater judgment, oh, crit's really bad. It's not. It's just that you want mastery. Particularly if there's any ads in the offing. If there's going to be ads there, that's when you want to kick the shit out of them. Yeah, I think in general agility is for feral way ahead of anything, and so that's why, you know, you just pretty like Blizzard keep going on. Oh yeah, we want, you know, an item level of 10, increase item level to always be an upgrade. For some classes and specs, maybe it is. It's not for me. You know, I can easily have items that are not. You know, I was looking at like the problem I have, if a relic drops that's a significant item level upgrade, then, you know, as a rep paladin I would want it, because item level of weapon is so important. Like, you know, the difference between having, if I could add 10 more item levels to my weapon and keep all the traits on those relics the same, that would be a lot of DPS, quite a lot of DPS. So you sort of want it, but at the same time you can't be absolutely certain that it's definitely an upgrade, because the traits also are worth a lot of item level. You know, we have this awkward situation as rets, I say I, and other rets who are here, where weapon item level is super important, as it always has been, ever since vanilla. But our traits are also worth a lot as well. You know, some classes have traits where, you know, it's nice if you get the bis trait, but it doesn't matter that much. Whereas Weeg, it's like really important that you get the bis traits. So that fire relic I got yesterday had terrible traits, but it was a 20 item level upgrade. So as bad as those traits were, they, you know, the 20 item level upgrades just about shaded it. Can't wait until they get rid of tier gear. Sick of not being able to use the 45 item level upgrade. A 45 item level upgrade, I suppose on a single piece, maybe not. But if you had it on 2 pieces, that should be worth breaking your set for, I suppose, maybe. I don't know. Maybe not. You saw for disc that Cloak is still considered the top legendary. Going to the new tier, have to drop tier 24 piece. Yeah, well, I mean, if it's just a Cloak on its own, the argument could always be, ideally what you want is the 4 pieces of tier that fit around it. But when you don't have a free hand in choosing what gear you have, then you always have to, you know, just go with whatever's the best of what you have. Haven't upgraded your relics in a while. I hadn't up until this week. This week, I think I've ended up replacing all of them, which has struck me a bit by surprise. Was it all of them? I think it is, yeah. I think I've replaced all of them. But I hadn't replaced any of them for a couple of months at least before that. Oh, you can get away with tanks dying right at the end of a fight. You just have to kite the boss around. I mean, on a hunter, that's the ideal way to do that. But yeah, I mean relics. But it's so. But my issue with it is that if a really what looks like, I mean, it could be a relic that's like 15 item levels upgrade, and it might have the BIS trait on it, and I would still have to say Netherlight Crucible, because I can't say that it's definitely an upgrade, because it might not be. You know, I can't just say, oh, I want that relic, and then it turns out it's not an upgrade at all. That's just silly. That's you know, someone else could have used it. Excuse me. But so I really despise the Netherlight Crucible. It's really badly annoying me. It was just from a philosophical point of view annoying in Tomb of Sargeras, because by the time it rolled around I already had decent relics for Tomb of Sargeras. But you know, Antorus is the first tier where we're really seeing the Netherlight Crucible in full swing. And you're just constantly just going, well, I can hardly imagine a relic drop. I need to work out, actually, what item level of different relics need to drop for it to be a definite upgrade, even if it's got the worst traits. That's what I should do, actually. I should sim that for myself so that I can actually say... Because if you get something Titanforge, obviously, I mean, I wouldn't get it if it Titanforged that high up. Someone else in the guild would get it because they're, you know, on the trial. But in theory... If a really high Titanforge one drops and it's definitely an upgrade for me, I need to be able to say, well, that's definitely an upgrade. But I can't just do that in my head, of course. I've got to sim it. So my default situation is to go, this has a reasonable chance of being an upgrade, but it's not guaranteed. Netherlight Crucible. There is... Someone made a sort of individualised one for Rets, actually. But I would rather do it for myself, for my own gear. The problem is that certain traits, they don't have set values really. It all depends on the balance of the rest of your gear. Like for example, a judgment trait, how valuable it is depends on your mastery. You know, and you get similar ones as well with other things. I haven't switched Horde, no, Julo. I am in a guild, but I haven't switched to Horde. Yeah, I'd rather just make myself a list. I can update it quite easily every weekend. There's only so many relics I would even think twice about, because there are some god-awful relics in Antorus. Ones with like reduction of cooldown and blessing of protection. I can do without that. I don't care if it has BIS traits in other respects. I'm not taking that. When do I even use Bob? I think the first boss is the only time when it comes in useful, unless I'm forgetting something. But the point is that it's very unless it Titanforges a long way up, I'm not actually ever going to have a relic that I can say is 100% definitely going to be an upgrade, without actually sticking it in the Crucible and having a look. At which point you've bound it to yourself. So that's not good. Quickie, which buff do I pick up in P1 Argus? The Mastery one. Of course, Mastery. If I get the option, sometimes... I mean, I have... Nah, I'm going to... Which one was it in? I think the last time I did it, which may have been the normal version, I actually got that on me and I shoved it a bit... I chucked it out there. But... I'm trying to think now. I think it was the normal version. So yeah, sometimes you'll get idiots like me who don't drop it very close to melee, so you've got to run back to get it. Yes, Mastery has gone very well if you have the 2 set tier 21 for Retribution Paladins. If you don't, it's where it was, which is still better. I mean, they did buff Mastery outright in the last tier, but it was still, you still didn't really want it that much. But they just stopped it being completely poisonous. You haven't used the Netherlight Crucible yet. You must have used it. Have you not unlocked it yet? Does that mean you haven't done the quest to unlock it? Because even without any particular like artifact level, you still get the benefit of the item level increase from it. When BFA comes out, will I book time off work? I can't book time off work. I'm a teacher. It's not, you know, if I had a job where I could book time off, I would do that at the start of an expansion. I would also aim to do it at the start of a tier as well. Maybe take a day or two off. But no, I'm a teacher. You know, I have quite nice holidays. You know, 13 weeks off a year. Not too bad. Obviously, they're not really off. I have a lot of work to do in them as well. But still, I at least get to pretend to be self-employed then, where I can manage my workload as I wish. In a week's time, I get a couple of weeks off. But the downside that you go to a school that gets 4 weeks off at Christmas. No, teachers can't book time off because we have to be there on term time. We have to teach our classes. Every time we have to have cover, for example, I've got a hospital appointment this Thursday, so I have to have people covering my classes. Those classes aren't going to really learn anything new. All I can do is set work for them. Like I have to do all the teaching, you know, cram that into the lessons just before it, so that they can then spend that lesson doing coursework or whatever. Oh, I suppose if it's a private school, especially if there's boarding there, then it's just to give them a decent amount of time to go back to the families, I guess. I don't know. But no, I can't book time off. This is why I can never get to BlizzCon. You know, my only hope of ever physically going to a BlizzCon, because that's a weekend I can't possibly get to California and back again. My only chance of ever having any time off when an expansion launches or when BlizzCon's on is if either I can, you know, go full time doing this, which is, you know, not realistic, or I win the lottery, which actually has a slightly higher chance. I mean, I don't actually get 2 full weeks off this time, which is annoying. And there's a lot of things I want to do. And it's one of these things, I have to be very careful with these sort of holidays, because I need to rest. That's always the thing. And our principal always tells us, make sure you rest, because there's no point in going back after it knackered. So I need a certain amount of time to rest. But there's other things I want to do as well. And the problem is, this is what happened to me this summer, actually. I planned to do various things, and then I threw my plan away, and then in my head I'd made other plans, but I made so many plans it wasn't possible to do all of them. In the end, I didn't do any of them well, so that's why I need to write down the plan, and I need to work out when I'm going to do these things so that I can look at it and go, yeah, you can't do all that, can you, in 13 days, and then rethink it. But so no, the trade-off is you get 13 weeks where you're basically managing your own. You've always got some work to do, but you manage that yourself. It's like being self-employed, really. A very lazy self-employed person, because you're not exactly hard at it. So a quarter of the year off, but you don't get to choose when that is. So you have to, you know, every now and then, for like compassionate reasons, you might get it off. Like someone, for example, her son was getting married, so she was allowed a Friday off to travel down But that's, you know, generally you can't just... I can't go in and say, do you know what, I want a couple of days off because the new expansion's launching. They all just look at me like I'm an idiot and tell me to sod off. What kind of plans I'm making? Well, plans for the channel, first of all. I have to work out what I'm going to do differently for next year, or at least the first part of next year. I have to get to grips with the new things on YouTube. YouTube has done more new things, so I have to try and get myself up to speed with that. I want to place I want to at least get one character on Star Wars: The Old Republic up to a much higher level. Can I make something up? That would be dishonest, Winnie. I don't tell lies. Not malicious ones, anyway. I occasionally tell known players they're doing well even when they're gnomes. But, you know, that's a white lie to make them feel better for being utterly useless. So, yeah, I want to play some Star Wars: The Old Republic. I want to play some Elder Scrolls Online. I want to play some WoW, actually. That would be quite nice every now and then. And do some tidying up. I'm really bad at housework. I don't like housework. My house is a state. So, you know, when I get some time off, then... No, I tell white lies, Cliffado. I will tell people they're doing okay when they're not, just if I think that telling them otherwise would cause them to get discouraged. 2 personal days a month. Teachers get personal days 2 a month. Now, we have to have a good reason. I never promise to do any marking before I will actually do it. I always tell them quite clearly, if I aim to get it done by a certain time, it will be done by that time. Otherwise, I can't moan at them when they don't hand it in on time. How many players is an ideal Mythic roster? 25, I would say. Obviously, you have to base it on like whether people turn up or not. But to my mind, if you have more than 25, first of all, you've got too many people on the bench. If you haven't got too many people on the bench when you've got more than 25 players, then you've got players that aren't very reliable. That's not good either. You're spreading gear too thin. Or if you're concentrating the gear on the people, because you always have a core and then the rest. Your core raid team are the people who are always in. You don't even think about taking these people. They're always in on every boss. Unless their class or spec is just totally poisonous on that fight. But for most of the fights, they're just always in. So there's a certain number of those, and then you've got the other ones. Now, of the other ones, if you decide to just lump your gear onto the core ones, which might be sensible from one point of view, the downside is, to the other people's point of view, a gap will emerge. So even if they play as well, they won't be able to perform as well. So you create this permanent divide between them. So, oh, thank you, 6 Skeptics. So yeah, anyway, well, going back to Winnie's comment, not malicious, you just need to play the expansion. Well, I always manage to level up anyway. I put plans in place. When an expansion comes out, I know I have to level up and gear up 2 characters. Or in the last 2 expansions, I've had to do that at the start for split runs, because I've done split runs in Legion and in WoD at the start anyway. So I've known I've had to gear up and level up 2 characters before the raid opens. I've known I've had to do it around work. With Legion, it was particularly bad because it was in September, effectively. That's right at the start. Any time between September and Christmas is the worst time to do it because that's the busiest time of the year. Really busy time of year. There are sometimes little pockets of busyness throughout the year, but they don't usually last 2 whole weeks. So yeah, but you know, so I know I have to do that. So what I do is I have to minimize all the time I need to spend doing anything else Okay, so when I'm finished, I make sure I don't have a pile of. I clear the decks basically at work. Hiya, Blaze. I clear the decks at work to make sure that I'm up to date with everything, so I don't have any extra to do after work. Obviously, if there's going to be an evening event or something like that, then that's just them cooking me. I can't do anything about that. Then I get home ASAP. I don't hang about. Get home ASAP. I don't waste time cooking myself anything. I will have a stock of pot noodles and biscuits and like bottles of pop there, and I will subsist on those for a while. The only thing I'll have in my fridge is fruit, because I can just grab that and bring it upstairs. I will get groceries delivered, so I don't actually go. Imagine I mostly get groceries delivered these days, actually. So the only reason for me to actually leave the computer when I'm back here is either to go to sleep, to go to the toilet, or to go to answer the door to pick up my groceries. And that's it, you know. So I work efficiently, and you get away with it then. So your guild has 23 raiders with 6 trials. If they're all really reliable, the downside... I mean, the one I'm in has a very large roster, actually. It's a bit awkward. I still got those tins in front of my TV. What tin? Oh, no, they've moved now. No, I tidied those up. But, you're the same when new X packs come out. Some people call it stupid. If you're enjoying, there's no harm. Well, quite. And you're on a bit of a timer to get yourself ready anyway. Because, you know, it's no easy task getting 2 characters up and leveled. It's a little bit easier when you can have them on 2 accounts, because at least with the world quests, I was able to do world quests with both characters at once. Once I'd got them both leveled up. The issue was, of course, with WoD it was easy. I leveled up one character, then I leveled up another. Quite easy, no problem. The only thing I had to do on a day-to-day basis was like do the odd heroic and do 1 challenge mode for gear. Whereas in Legion, every time I was on my Demon Hunter, which is what I initially used for my split runs, and I had to level it and to gear it up, but every moment I was spending on that, I knew there was stuff I could have been doing on my Paladin to help it. So, you know, that was quite awkward. You're the 2nd highest average item level and perma benched. How does that work? It's not to do with item level anyway, it's to do with like performance. There's more glory to have higher performance with lower item level. I'm just seeing. No special announcements about anyone killing Argus. The other thing I want to check is, I don't think they've announced hotfixes today, so there's no more class tuning this week, is there, basically? There's just a bug fix for Vengeance Demon Hunters, and that's it. And then a few, like, changes to some of the bosses. I wonder if they're planning on another set of class tuning. They might leave it another week. But there is, well, that's the problem. That's sort of the curse and the blessing of Legion. There's been so much to do on one character, which is a big culture shock from WoD, where the only thing to do was keep rolling alts. When it was actually very difficult to roll without, especially at the start. They've actually helped. They've improved things through Legion. At the start of Legion, it was very, very unfriendly on alts, or even people who just wanted quality time doing something else outside of World of Warcraft. So, can't perform poorly if you never get into the raid. Well, no. That is that. Well, although it is a bit of a fear, because obviously I've missed out this week on a lot of mythic bosses, and the fear now is So it's like when you progress on a boss, let's say it takes you 10 pulls. You know the first few, you're probably not going to kill it straight away. So you get to try things out. Only by trying things out and risking colossal failure can you ever do really well, because you need to try these things out. So when you come in and it's already dead, everyone's expecting to one-shot it. Whether it happens or not is another matter. So you never get to try anything out because you always feel, right, we're going to kill it now on this pull, my very first pull. So you just play it safe, and playing it safe means you'll only ever do okay. You'll never do brilliantly, which is a bit of a bugger. But yeah, it's always much more fun when you're on there from the start, because you get to, you just get to play about knowing that it doesn't matter how embarrassing you die, as long as you don't keep doing it, or at least keep doing the same thing, then it will be fine. It will all work out. The high-end guild legendaries were a setback as well. Some people ran with 4 different Mistweaver trying to get the best ones. Well, that was the issue, certainly at the start of the expansion. There was this... Oh, is it? No. I don't know. But I've got voice meter banana on for it. It does do that. That is why I don't usually have voice meter banana on for these. But I had to, because it should be okay now, by the way, but I know there's a delay. I had to because I was running a Mythic plus 15 just before it, and I thought it would overrun a little bit. I sort of knew it would. So yeah, all I have to do is close it down and open it up again, but it's, I never get any warning that it's happening. Right, sorry, where were we? Yeah, so the issue at the start of Legion, of course, is the bad luck protection only really works for the first 4 legendaries. I think it was still technically in place after the 4th, but it became much less. So realistically, there was effectively a soft cap of 4 legendaries, even if you were blasting all the content. So indeed, some top players were rolling multiple of the same class, and just whichever one got the best legendaries, that was their main. That was all there was to it. Hang on, what's this? You can get a Postmaster title in 7.3.5. What the hell? What do you get that for? What? Where's that shown up? No, does that mean there's a new PTR? I can't see a patch on the PTR downloading. Oh, but indeed I can see a load of stuff that's being data mined. Postmaster. Some new minigame thing. What? Sending letters from different post boxes. This sounds ridiculous. It is, isn't it? Oh my god. Yes, I can see what you're talking about. There's a whole list of Postmaster letter, Illyrian stronghold, Mythic. Mythic what? I don't understand this. Oh, well, I suppose it will make sense eventually. Priority Mail sought 30 partially addressed letters within 60 seconds in the Postmaster's office. Title rewarded Postmaster. Jesus. This sounds like the old first aid quest, doesn't it? The triage quest that you used to do in Mythic. In Vanilla. Mythic post office minigame. What the hell? Are you supposed to sort 30 things in 60 seconds? Not giving you very much time. What, the first aid quest is still in the game, is it? Is it? Oh, it's gone now. Because you used to have to do it. But is it just optional now? Because you don't have to do it. You used to have to do it to be able to progress from 225, I think it was. How long does a mythic trial period in most skills last? It depends on the guild, really. Like some guilds, it might, you know, it might be a week, maybe 2. Some will say, well, 3, and then we'll see after then, and maybe extend it if you think you've got potential, but you're not, you know, you're not the finished article just yet, or you know, whatever. Well, it depends what you have to do when it is, isn't it? I mean, obviously, if they're going to say 30 and 60 seconds, it must be doable, but doesn't sound very much to me. Because I would have thought it meant letter appears there and you have to click, like the way I would imagine it's like you're clicking a mailbox. I wonder how many you got to see, because it looked, that was a hell of a list it gave you there. And 30 of them. It wasn't in Duskwallow for Alliance. Maybe it is for Horde, I don't know. World first Postmaster race. Well, surely that would just be whoever was... I actually can't remember. I didn't think it was Theramore. I can't remember though now. I forgot. I can picture the room it was in, but I can't picture where the room was. Arathi sounds more like it to me. That sounds more like it. Oh. Well, should we... Oh, it doesn't matter. We'll look it up later. Sorry, no. I'm playing about with a throat sweet, but I've just realised if I have the throat sweet, then I will just sound like I'm sucking on a throat sweet, and that'll probably be quite annoying. But apparently crumpling it is quite annoying too. I wasn't Horde, so I'm just not remembering that. I'm now curious. I want to look it up now. Let's have a look. Oh, I am seeing something here that says Theramore. That's in 2008. Hold on. There's one here that I guess is off a private server. Oh, that's no good. That's a Horde player. Bloody hell. Right, let's see. Oh no, it does say Theramore Isle, so obviously I've just misremembered then. That's fine, there you go, it was Theramore. I was curious that I don't remember it being there. But that's, I mean, that's what it sounds like, because that was the first quest, like, properly timed quest I remember doing. I suppose escort quests were all technically timed. But, you know, the triage one, you know, because that was, until you sort of worked it out, that was failable. And then it was actually quite easy once you twigged what was going on. And then, you know, because there were quests like that for all of the thingy professions. With fishing, you had to go to Nat Pagel, didn't you? In Feralus, I think. And I don't remember a delivery quest then. Did I do a delivery quest? I don't remember one if I did. There is actually in Lord of the Rings Online some Postmaster quests in the Hobbit area where you have to take mail, ironically, from post station to post station, and you have to not be spotted by nosy hobbits. There's nosy hobbits around, and you have to not get caught by them, basically. Let's see, can I click on this then? Let's try and put it in here. Oh, Postmaster quest in Stratholme. That wasn't timed though, was it? Was it? Hang on a minute. Okay, whatever that is doesn't seem to be working. Let me just have a look at it. Oh, okay. Doesn't seem to be doing anything. That link. Oh, but I have just seen it now. So I'm having a look at it. All right, so it is. Is it just a clicky thing? I think it's just a clicky thing. There's one, two. Hold on. Let's. Probably put this in. Oh, of course, I'm not logged in on this version, am I? Ah, no, then. Let's just take a screenshot. Right, so it just comes up there. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you just have to click. Presumably these change with each one. So when you get the next mail, there'll be 6 different things there. Oh, you've got to. Oh, it's just no. It's whatchamacallit. It's just continents. You just have to know which continent it's on. I see. It's a geography quiz. Right. Kalimdor, Eastern Kingdoms, Outland, Northrend, Pandaria, Broken Isles. I noticed Draenor isn't on there, apart from obviously Outland. Well, I think the Postbox minigame, to be fair, is an addition. What else? Do you get anything else for it, do you think? Doing 30, though, in 60 seconds would still sound like a bit of a nuisance to me. Imagine getting 29 and to do it again. Let's say. Seems okay, though. I might give that a go. I might quite like that. I haven't noticed anything downloading on the PTR, though. It must have done, though. I suppose. I quite like that idea. I think I'll do that. You want an errand boy pet? You get those on when it's Orphans Week, don't you? You just don't do the quest, and then you've got an orphan slave for the whole week. Or 2 weeks, however long it lasts. Yeah, I never did the Squires thing. Ever noticed that Blizzard tries to stay so far away from Draenor in everything they do now? Well, you naturally would anyway, because it's alternate timeline and parallel universe, that sort of thing. So it's a very... you know, even if it had worked well, you probably would anyway, because all it's going to do is confuse new players that weren't around for that expansion. Those lucky few. I mean, this is why I always feel it was a bad... Well, it's not the only reason, but one reason why I thought it was a bad idea to redo the level 1 to 6 like vanilla zones, because they didn't just redo them, they made them Cataclysm. So there's loads of references to Deathwing and the Twilight's Hammer in them all over the place. Well, you never get any closure on any of that now that Cataclysm's over, so what was the point of that? You want one of the giant maggots from Eastern Plaguelands as a hunter pet. Who wants a maggot as a pet? Maggots are bait to attract pets. There was a one related to a horde quest, wasn't there? I've forgotten what it's called now. Bolvor or something. That used to be near the Eastern Strathome Gate. That was quite nasty. You couldn't solo it, could you? Unless you were like a... I think our protection warrior soloed it actually for a bit, although he wasn't doing very much damage to it, but he survived at least. But yeah, it was a huge maggot in a ditch that it certainly wasn't related to any quest that I found, so I think it must have been for a horde quest. You get a toy for doing the quest that summons some little people who give you mailbox access. Not true. Wouldn't engineers be a bit upset about that, given that that's, you know, moving in on their patch? Wow. Oh, is this all related to this Postmaster game thing? You mean for 7.3.5? Let's have a look at the post then. Let's see what it says. What the hell? Come here. Oh, there's two options on this thing. So you can say, I want to sort letters, or give me a challenge. I want to sort the letters with partial addresses. So that's what I think the achievement's probably for, where it gives you the name of the area but not the zone. So you have to know which zone it's in. Actually, you don't really do. You just have to know which continent it's on. So achievement, priority mail, sort 30 letters within 60 seconds. Title reward Postmaster. The total package. Find the Postmaster in Dalaran and lend him your aid. Reward removed. Title reward courier. Okay, so they've removed that. Thank you for reading out the questions and comments now. Oh, I've been doing that for a while, I think, in the mailbox. But yeah, it's quite random sort of sometimes which ones I get picked on. Mythic post office game. Well, we'll have to see how difficult it is in reality. I'd quite like to try it. Oh, it does sound fun. It sounds frustrating if you don't get it right fairly quickly. But it still sounds fun. I'm not seeing a lot of information on other things. Oh, there's some dialogue stuff. Shouldn't read that out, might be spoilers. Let's have a look. Is it? Yes, I think those are spoilers. I'm not sure there's going to be a world first Postmaster achievement though, or even realm first. Oh, Gallywix has been updated. Gallywix has an updated ring and cane model in 7.3.5. I don't know what his current one looks like though, so I can't comment too much on that. This is, of course, only going to encourage people, isn't it, to ask when goblins and worgen are going to get updated models, if they're going to be updating NPCs. That's what it's going to look like now. Well, no, this isn't. This is just from the art departments, isn't it? It says updated ring and cane. Is the ring that thing there on the hand that is holding the cane? I suppose it is. But yeah, I don't know what they look like now. So. I think you have to become extremely prosperous. What the hell? What is this image here? Rumours going around that we might be getting some of the new subclasses at 7.3.5. I think that was said, wasn't it? I don't think that's a rumour anymore. I think it was noted that we are getting some of them, but not all of them. What do I think the odds are of Blizz pulling law to justify Zandalari paladins? Well, they've done stranger things. Is all I would say on that one. You know, so I'd rather see troll paladins than I would Tauren paladins. I mean, when it comes to lore, they just make it up. You know, they do, right, we want to do a thing. And if they have a lore department, I'm sure they look at them and go, no. And then they're told, no, make it happen. Do a thing to make it happen. There are no known paladins, and there never will be known paladins. Ian Hazacosta said they don't make sense. I keep repeating myself on that, but I shall continue to repeat myself. There is no such thing as gnomes. Well, no such thing as known paladins anyway, but that's all that matters. Allied races might tide us over until BFA. Well, of course, there are quests associated with them. Can't get the new transmog, only available if you level. Yes, you have to level up. You can't just race change and benefit from it. No, can't get it exactly. Night Elf mages don't make sense either. That shouldn't have been a thing. Gnome priests don't make sense. That shouldn't have been a thing. So many things don't make sense. Gnome hunters, I really don't know what they're thinking about. Gnomes are not hunters. They're scavengers at best. So yeah, the transmog, yeah, is indeed for leveling up. So that will be Battle for Azeroth, won't it? Law Department, you mean the one guy in the office no one listens to? Yeah, I'm quite sure it is like that, yeah. Why don't Night Elf mages work via the law? Because they shun the arcane, because they blame elves that used arcane magic for bringing demons to the world. Now, I know from a gameplay point of view, it's a bit of a head scratcher because balanced druids use arcane magic, like, you know, moonfire and stuff like that. So it is a bit of a, yeah, why isn't it all just nature? But, yeah, mages shouldn't be a thing because they blame mages. What happened was, basically by casting magic in the world, you are attracting demons. And during a war, it was when the Alliance came to the aid of the elves agreed to teach the humans magic. So you had human mages. The problem was that they used it quite recklessly as well. So you had like two branches of mages that were causing all sorts of trouble. There was Ashara's lot that, you know, were considered to have done no good at all by bringing all these demons. And then there were human mages recklessly casting magic all over the place, also attracting demons. So Night Elves basically took the view, we shouldn't be doing this, it's dangerous. Can you stop? So the Night Elves that sort of went off refused to use arcane magic. So yes, you shouldn't have Night Elf mages. Any Night Elf that would have used arcane lore-wise would have become High Elves. I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. Oh, someone said 110 for heritage sets, is it? In that case, you might be able to get it this expansion then. Balanced druid magic comes from a loon. Yeah, it's supposed to. But nonetheless, the issue is they specifically have an issue with the arcane magic as attracting demons. Presumably because on that charts that Blizzard produced for Warcraft Chronicles, arcane is directly opposite to fel, isn't it? So, I don't know. I'm just guessing there. But specifically, arcane is supposed to be a no-no. And yet, like, Moonfire is arcane. Oh. But I suppose that's arcane from a gameplay point of view rather than a lore point of view, maybe. That's a plot point with Dathramar and the Sunwell. Oh, I don't know about that then. Horde stuff, don't know. What chart? Oh dear, have I still got it? Let me have a look. Oh, I have still got it. Oh, what am I doing? This map here, which you get in Warcraft Chronicles. So fel magic is over here. This is demon. And what am I doing? Where's my Ashbringer pointer? I need my Ashbringer pointer. Make it smaller. So, oh god, why is my Ashbringer pointer not at the top of everything? Bloody fool. Right, there we go. So here is fel. This is where demons are. Here is arcane. This is where titans are. And they're sort of opposite there. So I don't know. I just thought that maybe the reason why arcane specifically is such a problem for attracting demons is because it's like very opposite, and opposites attract. But I don't know. What bosses will I coin this week? That is a very good question. It's almost impossible for me to make an informed decision on which bosses I coin. I will have 4 coins. But the thing is, I don't know which mythic bosses I would be on. So it's one of those things. There are heroic bosses that I could coin that would have stuff that I would want. And there are more than 4 heroic bosses I would like to coin. Obviously, I can't coin more than 4 heroic bosses. If I use all 4 coins on heroic bosses, which are the only bosses I'm guaranteed to be on, I potentially miss out on the opportunity to coin like some mythic bosses. But let's say I mean, if I save one mythic coin, I've got pretty good odds of being on at least one mythic boss, surely. But if I save 2, would I? I don't know. So I am going to have to think about it. Yeah. So I don't know. I really don't know. No, but they likely would have joined. They would have been shunned by, like, the druidy night elves that we sort of call night elves in the game now. So they're not automatically highborn, but they would have presumably gone and followed Kel'Thas. Or not, well, not, wasn't Kel'Thas to begin with, was it? The Sunstrider. Oh, what's his name? The first one. Can't remember his name now. Not a major lore character. Illidan used it, but then again, Illidan was also shunned by Night Elf Society, specifically for using that sort of magic. Like, when you're talking about names of elves, it also depends on when you're talking about. Because all elves technically are night elves. You go, Dathramar, thank you. No, is it? Is it Dath? No, it's not what I'm thinking of, is it? Hold on. It does very much depend on when you're talking about, because they are all night elves, really. Sorry, hold on. I need to look this up to see what I'm thinking of. Sunstrider Dynasty, WoW Wiki, that'll tell me. Oh yeah, okay, Dathramar was indeed. Didn't sound right somehow. Well, yeah, but you know, when they became elves, they came from trolls. Elves are not trolls; they just derive from trolls. Just like, you know, gnomes are not useful; they just derive from useful things. And dwarves are not earthen; they just came from earthen. Just like my desk is not a tree; it came from a tree. They're not now, no. They're not now. But remember that they're immortal. So there are blood elves around now that at one time would have been called night elves. I say immortal, ever living. So there are blood elves now that call themselves blood elves that were night elves. It's not like an evolutionary thing as such. Any differences in appearance are supposedly down to the sorts of magic they practiced. Why the Nightborn are supposed to have all gone like anorexic and purple because of their shield. But they were the same people, the actual same people. Yeah, it's the differences in the elves is down to the magic they practiced. Is how it's supposed to be. You just did the Hunter Challenge, Gratz. Well, I'm hoping that's going to be the case with the Protection Paladin one. I might do that this Christmas. Because I do, the thing, this is a problem I actually have. This is a Warcraft based stream. What was I saying now? Yes, sorry. Protection Paladin. Give me some slack. The Protection Paladin one is has the mace thing, the one with the physics on it, and also the warrior one was as well. I might actually want to do it on my warrior at some point. My warrior obviously has done nothing on it. So I want to try to get that done at some point. But I have so many sort of alts I want to level and get some Legion content done while you still can. Oh yeah, I'm sure it will be. But I am going to look at a video of it. I'm not going to make it up as I go along, like I did with the Ret one. Because I sort of, you know, for any sort of credibility, had to do that one on my own. And like first time. Or, you know, on the first reset of it. Protection Paladin, don't have to know anything about tanking, so I don't care. But yes, I'm sure it will. Apart from the fact on the tank one, I think, isn't the difficulty not getting knocked off the platform or something? I seem to think. So I shall definitely watch a video on it before I attempt it. Although I have plenty of nether shards now, so I have no issue. Neither Fury nor Arms. I don't care about those ones. The Protection Warrior specifically, because again it has the mace thing. I only want to get the transmogs I like the look of. I don't really like the look of most of them. So the only I want to do it on the Protection Paladin. I should probably do it on Holy as well, just because, you know, Paladin main. I should probably get all of them. But I don't really like the look of. I don't like the idea as a Holy Paladin of having a weapon. I like the sword and shield type thing, or mace and shield, something like that. I prefer. And I hope they go to that as well in the next expansion, because that's the big question mark for me. Are Holy Paladins going to be having just one weapon again, like they have with the artifacts, or do we get to go back to mace and shield? And same with shamans, I suppose, as well. Because I never liked, because I mean it was reasonable like before, even in the old days when you played Holy in like vanilla. Some people did just use an offhand, like a caster's offhand, because it'd have perfectly good stats for that. But I just didn't like it. I thought it was not good, especially as most of them just look like a light bulb or a little stick. So I liked a shield. I wanted a shield. In particular, the best shield, of course, was the one that dropped off Philastris in Blackwing Lair, which I managed to get fairly early on. You know, there were paladins in a guild that were much faster progress than us, and had killed Velastris far more times, that were very envious of my dragon scale shield thing. But that's what I would want to go back to. Do I think that Blizzard will be able to tell a decent faction war story in BFA? What I think at the moment is, like, for me, the story has to be mirrored in the gameplay. So in order for the story to work, there has to be faction v faction content. Now, from a PvE standpoint, they've sort of got it covered, because these island invasions, and especially those sort of the bigger raid ones, sound like that will work. That sounds all right to me. But in terms of actual PvP for PvP players, does it sound like they're doing anything significant for that? It sounds to me like they're just trying to come up with a load of gimmicks. I really don't see anything like that. Did the guild down Portal Keep the other day? Yes, it did. It's on 5 out of 11 now. It got A&R as well afterwards, although A&R took longer than I was expecting. If I adopted a kid from the street, what, these streets round here? You're joking, aren't you? Would I make them a world first mythic raider? No, certainly not. World first mythic raiders have to sacrifice everything. It's ridiculous. It's too much. It's too much. It's one thing to play the game quite a lot of your disposable time, so to speak. It's quite another thing to do it at the exclusion of everything else. They're not playing a game as a full-time job unless they're going to get paid a ridiculous amount of money for it. They can become a pro gamer if they're any good, but I wouldn't really encourage it. I think you have to go with the percentages, don't you? You encourage people to do well at school, because that's their best chance. If they do well at school, they'll never do badly in life. You know, they might not do brilliantly, but they won't do badly. And then anything that they want to do to become exceptional in something, they can do in their own time, if they have enough of it. Oh yeah, digital. Yeah, you like to be able to go back and do them again. Yeah, they have. I don't know. They didn't seem closed on the idea of potentially letting you do Mage Tower stuff again. They just haven't put it in, have they? Hold on, let's not get rid of that. But yes, it would be nice if you could go back and do the Mage Tower stuff again. Even if you've completed it the first time. They did say, yeah, they did say they were open to it. Well, it's possibly not top priority. That being said, I don't see, it's not surely a difficult thing just to allow you to do it. Unless they want to package it differently, I don't know. I don't really know. But anyway, we've come to the sort of end of this. I'll give it another couple of minutes in case people want to throw something else in. But other than that, I'll be closing this off. I'll be trying to work out what to say for the WoW Flash as well, because apart from banging on about Mythic Antorus, I don't think there's a lot. I mean, this time, well, not this time last week, but about 5 or 6 days ago, I might have thought that by now we'd have been talking about the world first race having been completed, but no, it has not. Can you send me your new MOG? Not if it's terrible again. I don't do ratings out of 10 for transmogs. Doesn't Preach do that on his web show? He used to. He didn't like my Death Knight, but he quite liked my Monk, as I recall, when I sent one in. You can try sending it, and we will see. But anyway, I'm going to call it a day there. I need to get on and get that other video done, and then go and sort stuff out for tomorrow. So thanks very much for coming on. Sorry it was a bit of a mess at the start. And I'll be back on tomorrow. It'll be Heroic tomorrow, and well, hopefully Heroic a bit quicker, followed by maybe a Mythic boss. But I don't know what I'll be doing on Thursday, because of course it'll be a combination of blah, 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 blah. Limit, hit, and rage at 22%. Well, we can only guess where Method and Exorcist have then. So maybe it's just a race to get geared up again with another reset, and then go from there. We'll just have to sit. Limit, hit, DDOS at 100%. Yes, very good. So, well, we'll just have to see. I mean, you know, you would think by the weekend or at some time during the weekend that they will get that. But yeah, so I know I'm off. Thanks very much for coming. I'll see you next time.